America is lucky that it's been separated from its greatest enemies by 2 oceans. But the world is getting smaller, which makes some ask if it's a good idea that our military is getting smaller. In the summer of 2014, Vladimir Putin tested his Air Force against NATO defenses.
They sent a large contingent of aircraft that we hadn't necessarily seen before as far as the numbers in that formation.
It was one of several such incidents, and the response was very much like the drill you're seeing now at Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson in Alaska.
Seconds count because of the vast distances here in Alaska.
Colonel Dave Pifferario pilots this F-22 Stealth Raptor, fully armed and ready to go on a moment's notice.
It takes a lot of time to get out there, so every second that we can make up on the ground, we can get closer and identify whatever is out there.
One thing that Pifferario has seen out there, Russian Tu-95 Bear bombers, capable of carrying nuclear weapons.
Wave to the guys, and they'll wave back to you and acknowledge that you are there.
These encounters have become common enough lately that at NORAD, the Eyes of the North, they've gone back to an old custom, placing red plaques on the wall every time there's an intercept. There are plenty of experts who see Russia as a danger we can't simply ignore.
Russia presents the greatest threat to our national security.
Russia is the only country on earth that has the capability to destroy the United States of America.
We're confronting a Russia that has now entered a new chapter in the Cold War.
And it's not only Russia we have to watch out for. Last September, China sent 5 warships toward Alaskan waters.
We began to posture ourselves for any event that might happen while they were here, especially with understanding the president would be visiting at that time.
Colonel Harley Bodine commands the NORAD Air Operations Center.
So we moved forces around to ensure that we were able to track them with the utmost confidence to know exactly where they were the entire time.
While the Chinese were offshore, President Obama visited Anchorage and gave a speech.
It proves that this once distant threat is now very much in the present.
He wasn't referring to a military threat.
Human activity is disrupting the climate.
He was talking about climate change. Meanwhile, as Russia builds brand new bases across the Arctic and China builds up its land and sea forces, the Pentagon is reviewing a decision to cut back up to 71% of an airborne paratrooper brigade based in Alaska.
Every senior governmental official that's been up here knows that this is a vital component of the Army.
Deputy Commander Jeffrey Crapo is part of the 425 Infantry Brigade combat team that's ready to go anywhere in the Pacific within hours' notice.
Our senior leaders are having to make tough decisions in the environment we're in right now.
But such decisions are all part of our newer, smaller military in its newer, less intrusive role. To Neil Ferguson, there's a lesson in all this that we're already starting to learn the hard way.
The lesson is that it's when a great power withdraws that conflict is most likely to escalate. That's exactly what's happened, and the result is a sobering one.
Indeed, amid the rising threats, the Army has returned its battle tanks to Europe and pushed off the decision to cut the 425 by another year, until another president takes office. What kind of world will that president, he or she, inherit?
The next president will face a world that is more complex, more challenging for American interests than any president of the 8 that I served.
This is about whether or not we can promote a world that ultimately can share in the values that the United States is all about. If the United States doesn't provide that leadership, nobody else will. Nobody else will.
I think it's very fair to say that President Obama is a retrenchment president. He doesn't want America to overcommit its military. The emphasis is on quick, nighttime, light footprint raids. If you're Obama, you argue, hey, the military's in a lot better shape than when I got it because I don't have 180,000 troops in Iraq and Afghanistan fighting wars that are A, unwinnable, and B, not that important.
I have grave concerns in terms of the readiness of our force, the Army forces, to be able to deal with great power war with one of or two of 4 countries. You're talking about China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea.
We're going to see ourselves potentially in a war that's far greater than what we have experienced in the Middle East, given everything that the President of the United States has been told about the complexity and the danger that exists in the world today. Stop the bleeding that you are causing to our armed forces.
The U.S. has been involved in non-stop military action abroad for more than a decade and a half, and Americans are widely thought to be war-weary. But we all know it is still a very dangerous world. Our first president, George Washington, famously warned his young country against foreign entanglements. But he did say something else, just as significant. One of the most effective means of attaining peace, he said, is to be prepared for war. That's our show. Thanks for watching.